All right, let's talk about tokenomics. It's the hidden blueprint, the economic engine inside every single digital currency. And honestly, understanding it is the key to figuring out why some projects absolutely explode while others just disappear.
So what's the secret sauce? I mean, why is it that some crypto projects seem to take off and reach the moon, while others, even with amazing tech, just fizzle out and die? Well, the answer, more often than not, is buried right in their tokenomics.
The word itself is just a mashup of token and economics. But what it really is, it's the rulebook for a digital currency. It's the code that decides how many tokens will ever exist, how they get into people's hands, and what makes them valuable. If you get this rulebook right, a project can last for years. But if you get it wrong, wow, it is a recipe for disaster.
So here's what we're going to cover. We'll start with the basics of what tokenomics really is. Then we'll get into the two big competing ideas, inflation versus deflation. We'll also look at what happens when these models go completely off the rails. And finally, we'll see how the smartest projects are actually building a hybrid future.
Okay, so at the very heart of tokenomics, there's this huge choice every project has to make. It's basically a duel between two totally different philosophies on how you create and manage value in a digital world.
On one side, you've got the inflationary model. This is where the number of tokens keeps growing over time. It's fantastic for rewarding people who help run the network and for getting the economy moving. But on the other side, you have the deflationary model. Here, the token supply actually shrinks, making every single token left more scarce and, in theory, more valuable. It's the ultimate showdown, growth versus scarcity.
Let's kick things off with the growth engine, the inflationary model. You know, this is the strategy that many of the biggest, most successful blockchains use to build out their massive ecosystems. Think about it like this. A government prints new money to pay for roads, schools, all that good stuff. Well, a blockchain network does something pretty similar. It creates new tokens to reward the people who secure the network, the miners and validators, and to fund development and growth. It's really just a security budget that's paid for by minting new tokens. And this is where you see the fundamental trade-off. On the one hand, creating new tokens is a super powerful tool for keeping the network secure and growing the ecosystem. But, and this is a big but, if you create too many new tokens too fast, it can dilute the value for everyone. Plus, you have all these miners and stakers who are constantly selling their rewards, which can create non-stop selling pressure on the price.
Okay, now let's flip the script and look at the total opposite approach, the deflationary model. This isn't about growth. This is all about creating value through deliberate, carefully engineered scarcity. The idea here is really simple, but it's incredibly powerful. Imagine a city only has 100 plots of land. Now imagine 20 of those plots are just gone forever. The 80 plots that are left are suddenly a lot more rare and probably a lot more valuable. Deflationary tokens are trying to do the exact same thing, encouraging people to hold on tight because what they have is only going to get scarcer over time.
So how do they do this? Well, one of the most popular methods is called buyback-and-burn. It's a simple three-step dance. First, the project makes money from things like transaction fees. Step 2, it uses that cash to buy its own tokens back from the market. And then step 3, this is the magic part, it sends those tokens to a wallet that nobody can ever access. Poof, they're burned forever, reducing the total supply. But here we see the other side of the coin. Yeah, scarcity can be a huge driver of value, and it really rewards long-term believers. But it has its own problems. It can actually encourage people to hoard their tokens instead of spending them, which can grind an economy to a halt. And if a token gets too scarce, it can become hard to even trade and way easier for big players to manipulate the price.
So it's pretty clear that neither model is a silver bullet. And when you take either one of these approaches to the absolute extreme, well, things can go wrong. Catastrophically wrong. With the inflationary models, the monster hiding under the bed is hyperinflation. This is what happens when a project gets its math wrong and just floods the market with way too many new tokens. Demand can't keep up and the value just collapses. It's a classic economic horror story, really. Just like a country that runs its printing presses 24/7, a project that mints an endless supply of tokens is going to find out that each one becomes worth less and less and less until they're basically worthless. Now, on the deflationary side, the big danger is called illiquidity. You can also think of it as economic stagnation. If a token becomes so scarce that nobody can get their hands on it because it's all been burned or locked away, it becomes almost impossible to buy or sell. Let me put it another way. An economy needs stuff moving around to stay healthy, whether it's goods, services, or, in our case, tokens. If everyone is just holding on for dear life and nobody is actually transacting, the entire market just seizes up. You've created a really rare asset, sure, but you've killed the economy it was supposed to power.
So, if both extremes are so dangerous, what's the solution? Well, the most forward-thinking projects are starting to realize it's not about picking a side in this fight. It's about finding the perfect balance between the two.
And that's where the hybrid model comes in. It's the next step in the evolution of tokenomics. It'll use those inflationary mechanics to reward people and fund growth. But at the same time, it introduces deflationary pressure by, say, burning a piece of every transaction fee. The whole goal is to get the best of both worlds, to drive participation while still creating that long-term scarcity. It's a dynamic system that can actually adapt to what the network needs.
And really, that's the big takeaway here. Tokenomics isn't just about code and math. It's about designing entire economies from the ground up. And as we continue to build out this new digital world, those core ideas of monetary policy, balancing growth, scarcity, and utility, are more critical than ever. So it leaves you with a question. If you were building a new digital economy, what kind of monetary policy would you choose?